Wrapping up their closing argument, let's welcome in our guest for this hour, joining us, criminal defense attorney Jo-Anna Nieves. Jo-Anna, great to see you. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us on the show. I want to get your general thoughts here. Number one, the defense decided to go with two different attorneys. Now, we see that from time to time. You'll often see that with the prosecution, where they'll have one deliver the initial and then a second one deliver the rebuttal. Less so on the defense side. What did you make of their closing and that choice?
So I think it isn't as common as you would see split time on the prosecution. I think that what they're trying to do is one person was really going over the facts of the case and the next honing in on this expert analysis, the two competing expert opinions, and what they really want the jury to take away from the arguments that were presented. And so it was kind of like, two different voices giving a similar argument, but in different styles, so that almost that primacy and recency and that repetition type of style, so that the jury can really take away their point that by a preponderance of the evidence, you've got to find that she was not guilty by reason of insanity.
Good points. Now, let me ask you about this, because that's a fine line. I think everybody can agree she had schizophrenia, mental health issues, not on her medications based on all the testimony that's been presented. And the state stipulated to some of that. How do you distinguish that from that next step of, and as a result of that, she didn't understand the wrongfulness of what she was doing? I think that's a lot to ask of a jury that's listened to the information about a stabbing death of a 3-year-old.
I 100% agree. I do not envy this jury's position. I think the defense started out really strong by talking about, that feeling that everybody can relate to when they heard what was going on. He said, I heard this, and I was like, what kind of crazy person would kill a 3-year-old child? What is happening in this world? What is this world coming to? And I think a lot of people have those same responses. So that set the foundation, and now it's kind of determining what is this wrongfulness aspect. She didn't try to conceal the weapon. She went in and, walked around, stole a knife, didn't go out the emergency exit that the manager was standing right next to. It was almost like a really casual day for her. And I think the defense is really harping on the fact that somebody has to be out of their mind and not knowing that they're doing something wrong to behave in this manner and then shrug it off after murdering a 3-year-old.
Yeah,
shrug it off.
Yeah, and the state's expert looked at it very differently, saying that she wanted to be arrested, taking that same activity and sort of switching it with a different perspective. All right, Jo-Anna, stand by. I want to take folks back into the courtroom now for the beginning of the rebuttal argument by the state.
Counsel for the state, Detective Ventris. Counsel for the defense, Defendant Ellis. May it please this court. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Our journey of the last week and a half is coming to an end. Our jobs as advocates in this case are coming to an end. And make no mistake about it, folks, we are advocates for each of our sides. But your job is just beginning. Though you have toiled with us for the past week and a half, you have traveled to this courtroom every single day. You have listened attentively. You have taken notes, some of you more than others. And at times, there was a bit of levity. But just because there was a bit of levity does not mean that this case isn't serious. One member of our community died on June 3rd of 2024, and that was 3-year-old Julian Wood. His mother, Margot Wood, was stabbed, and she survived at the hands of defendant Bionca Ellis. Folks, everyone has thanked you, each of you, for your time and your energy and for your effort that you've given us. We've imposed on you folks, and you have made the sacrifice in your personal lives for us. And your sacrifice isn't over yet. After I'm done speaking, the judge will continue to give you some further instructions, and then the case is going to be given to you and it will be in your hands for deliberation. You don't have notebooks at this particular junction because, as you already know, opening statements and closing arguments are what we think, what we believe, not what you heard from that witness stand. If I say something in closing argument, or for that fact, an opening statement that you didn't like or you didn't agree with, you rely on your 12 collective memories, because that's what our jury system is about. It's about you and what you hear in this courtroom to make a determination between the state of Ohio and this defendant, Bionca Ellis. I am going to share just a few things with you that I saw and that I heard in this courtroom. And by no means am I here to misrepresent anything.
We're going to get back to that closing argument, but Michael, she's pleading to the jury to really serve as advocate. She is bringing back in focus the 3-year-old that was killed.
And that's really the biggest strength of their case, the emotion. Even though we know juries are told not to include emotion, it's going to be very difficult in this case.
I agree with you. All right, up next, more closing arguments. The state's rebuttal will continue in the toddler stab murder trial of Bionca Ellis. Up next. Welcome back. We are in Ohio, where a jury has now been deliberating. The clock's on your screen for 41 minutes in the toddler stab murder trial against Bionca Ellis.
Ellis is facing several charges, including murder in the June 2024 stabbing death of Julian Wood, a 3-year-old boy.
Authorities have said that they believe the boy and his mother were randomly targeted in the attack, which took place outside of a grocery store.
Let's get back into that courtroom now. While we wait for that verdict, we're listening to the state's rebuttal closing argument to the jury.
I want you to rely on your 12 collective memories. Some of you have taken copious notes. What have you seen in this courtroom? What testimony have you heard? This courtroom has been your oyster for the past week and a half. You can believe some, all, or none of what has been testified to. That is your prerogative. You are the sole judges of credibility. I want you to use your common sense and your good judgment that you use in your everyday life to make a decision in this case. And I know that you will make a decision in this case. In opening statements, I told you folks to pay close attention to Bionca Ellis's actions. Mrs. Pateo stated in her closing argument this afternoon that the defendant, Bionca Ellis, killed Julian Wood and attempted to kill Margot Wood on June 3rd of 2024. We told you from the beginning that the one principal issue in this case is not going to be who did it or whether she did it. It's the issue of legal insanity. What that encompasses, folks, is that this defendant, with a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity, is asking you folks to relieve her of her responsibility of accountability for the death of Julian Wood and the attempted murder of Margot Wood. If the state proves all the elements beyond a reasonable doubt, she's saying, hold on, folks, I was legally insane, therefore should not be held responsible. But you folks recall that the burden is their burden to prove those two elements of legal insanity by a preponderance of the evidence. That scale has to tip. If it doesn't tip, they can't have it. One prong is not good enough. You need to focus on both prongs of the test that have to be met. If you do not have the second prong, she is guilty of each and every count. You heard the defense tell you, yeah, she's guilty of the murder, folks, but not guilty because of reason of insanity. They don't have the aggravated murder. We have the video. You decide. You decide how she acted that day. And was she hearing voices? And by no means am I disparaging anybody's mental illness here. I want you all to believe me from the bottom of my heart, because there are folks that walk around us each and every day with mental illness, and they don't kill people. What were her actions that day? You evaluate those actions on June 3rd, 2024, because that's what the law says. No one is disputing that she has been diagnosed with schizophrenia since she was 19. Not Dr. Knopfsinger, not Dr. West. Nobody's disputing that. But the issue becomes, did it affect her so much that she did not appreciate the fact that she stabbed a 3-year-old twice and a woman once? I submit to you, she knew exactly what she was doing. And it took her 8 months to come out with, I was blanking out, I was hot. I'm not diminishing her illness, but keep in mind, the excuses came 8 months later. Look at her actions. In Volunteers of America, you know, I think in this courtroom, folks, for the last week and a half, we've been playing semantics. Tossing, throwing, dropping. You decide. She did that day, because you get to watch her as she's picking out knives. She's looking at the knives. Which knife is better for me? This isn't something I made up. I didn't go out and choose that Bionca Ellis was going to be the next defendant that I prosecuted in my tenure at the prosecutor's office, which has been long. And I didn't pick the Wood family to be the victims of this case. I get assigned cases because defendants bring themselves into this courtroom. So you have the 2 knives. We can agree on that because we have video. So there's not much dispute about the video, because then it becomes interpretation. Interpretation by the state, interpretation by the defense. At the end of the day, the only interpretation that is important is yours. What do you see on those videos? Because if we didn't have the videos, then that would be a different ball game. But we have the videos. You have her actions. When she goes in to the outlet, the knives are on her back. Yes, she's positioned like this, but the knives aren't swinging here at things outlet. She is looking around to see who she's going to pick on. She goes outside. She stabs a column to see the pliability of a knife. That is somebody who wants a good weapon. That's not somebody who's just hitting the column.
All right, we're going to hear the rest of the closing argument by the state in the toddler stab murder trial of Bionca Ellis when we come back. So stay tuned here. Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Now to the toddler stab murder trial of Bionca Ellis in Ohio. Prosecutors say that Ellis stole a knife from a thrift store, walked into a grocery store next door. There she is. You can see her highlighted. That she followed Margot Ellis and her 3-year-old son Julian outside, and that is where she then stabbed them for no apparent reason.
The mother survived, but little Julian died from his injuries. Ellis is pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. I want to get you back now into court for more of the state's rebuttal closing argument.
And then she goes inside of Giant Eagle, and you determine, because she's thinking about it. It's like hunting, calculated, manipulative. She goes in and sees a child in a cart that can't get out of a cart because his legs are coming out, and a mother pushing it. Soon as she sees them, that about face is so quick and follows them. But then she's too fast for them. So what does she do? She holds back and waits for her prey to continue to move on, and then she follows right along. There's nothing disorganized about that. That is laser focused, ladies and gentlemen. And then she goes into the parking lot. And you heard Mr. Stroud and you heard Mr. Bush. They have no stake in the game. They told you what they saw. Never was she talking to herself. Never was she mumbling. Yet she took a knife and she plunged it into the back of a 3-year-old. That's what they did see, standing over her. Over him, I'm sorry. You heard the medical examiner. She's got no stake in the game. She told you that that butcher knife went into that child's body 4 inches that severed the carotid and 4 inches that stabbed the lung. She walks away nonchalantly. She walks away not in the aisle that she committed the crime, the next aisle, and she walked with a bloody knife. When the police arrive, she follows commands. And during the interview on June 4th, she talks to Marjorie Jones. You, ladies and gentlemen, have to watch that video. And what do you see? What do you see in that video? And where is her focus? I disagree with Mr. Mack when he says that Dr. West talks about this disorganization that she had. I thought she was pretty gosh darn organized about what she was doing that afternoon. And you know what, folks? Dr. West said that self-reporting is not enough because she co-wrote an article with Dr. Nossinger, who's been practicing for 30 years. And make no mistake about it, folks, he doesn't have a stake in the game either, because he's testified for the state, for the court, and for the prosecution. He is a professional. And when you compare reports, it's not about how many pages it is. It's about the methodology. And you heard her. She agreed with me. Methodology is very important. Finding corroboration objectively is important. You decide, ladies and gentlemen. The defense wants you to believe that I want to normalize Bionca Ellis. I don't want to normalize anybody. Her actions normalize herself because, like I said before, many people in our country suffer with mental illness every single day, but they don't go out and murder people. No one is going to stand before you and tell you that Bionca Ellis is not a schizophrenic. I'm not here to tell you that. She is. She was her own payee. She was living her own life, doing her own thing, going to California, going to Florida, functioning herself. Nobody had a guardianship over her. You heard that. But on June 3rd, 2024, Bionca Ellis killed Julian Wood and stabbed the mother. It was aggravated murder all day, every day. The murder and the felonious assault, yes, somebody got hurt and then they died. That's murder. You have the interview of the 4th. You have all the body cams, all the videos. You have both reports. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, as this case is winding down, we recognize in a civilized society that we rely upon the recourse of the law. We owe it from one generation to the next. The recourse of the law requires that you find the truth. In finding the truth, it really requires that you have faith in yourselves and faith in the law. What your decision is in this case completes the accounting for the death of Julian Wood and the attempted murder of Margot Wood. You've been on this journey with us, folks. The recourse of the law instills in all of us responsibility, and we don't lose that responsibility by claiming that we were insane at the time. That balance is off, folks. If they don't meet their burden of proof, not guilty by reason of insanity does not exist, and you find her guilty of each and every count of this indictment. And I ask you that for our community and for the mental health community, because good people sometimes make really bad choices, but they know what they're doing. Thank you. Thank you.
Still with us, criminal defense attorney Jo-Anna Nieves. Jo-Anna, what do you think of her theme, really, of the rebuttal that there are many people with mental health issues who do not kill, and pleading with this jury to be advocates to find the truth? Is this compelling in your mind?
I do think it's compelling because we're talking about people who know people and they have relationships with others who do suffer from mental illnesses and can relate to what she's saying in terms of, hey, how many people with mental illnesses do you know that turn around and engage in conduct like this and claim they didn't know what they were doing?
I never liked that argument ultimately because, again, mental health is one of those things that affects people differently. What one person, deals with schizophrenia, very different from another. Just like we know many serial killers have schizophrenia, but not all of them are serial killers. But anyway, Jo-Anna, what I wanted to talk about was the focus on the video by the state in that rebuttal. Because even their expert based a lot of his opinion on that video. Now, the whole emotional part with Julian and the mother being killed is very important for them. But at the end of the day, I think the video is some of the strongest evidence they have because, again, I struggle to find a place where she looks disorganized. They use that word a lot. She seems very deliberate in her actions, and I think it's going to be difficult, even with their experts, for the defense to get over that.
I agree. I think that the prosecutor did a great job outlining that theme of like a hunter and their prey, especially a vulnerable victim like Julian, where she talks about the way she intentionally went into a store, scoped out the knives, walked out with the knives, went someplace else, turned around, followed them, and then engaged in this act. The deliberate nature of it, I think, I agree with you, it will be hard to overcome, and this jury's going to end up torn about exactly that.
I just think they're not going to find not guilty by reason of insanity. What are your thoughts?
I don't think so either. I think the emotion of the case, they have enough from the expert and the evidence on that video to find her guilty and not find not guilty by reason of insanity.
Yeah, but we've been wrong before, so we'll see what this jury does right now, an hour out. Thank you, Jo-Anna Nieves, for joining us this hour. Greatly appreciate you.
Don't forget to like and share this video, and for more legal insights, keep watching and subscribe to our channel.